Is this something new that the board and school has learned this week? Or is this an issue or a matter that there's been knowledge of for a long time, or for years or months or what? So if you could please let us know if this is something new that you just learned about, or if it's something that you've known about for a while. And if it's the first, why is it an emergency now? So, thank you.
Ron?
Mine about school closing as well. I thought a little bit about it, and I think that there's more than what we're seeing on the surface behind this lead and mold issue. People are asking to see previous inspection reports and want to know why the paint, again, is not been an issue in the past, just like previously asked. No one believes that the lead paint has been in the school, or knows that the school in the school for years. It wasn't banned until 1978. Some members of the school board, 3 of which did not take the oath of office as required by Illinois law, have been working with a special interest group to keep a school in Lakeland at any cost, is the way I see it. 2 previous referendums, 2 penny taxes, placed on the ballot to replace the Lakeland school, have been defeated by district voters. This previously mentioned group fears that it will be defeated again and will do anything, including creating an issue that appears to involve the safety of the children to that means. The board, which is mainly comprised of Lakeland residents, has been planning for another referendum and using every stall tactic conceived since the defeat of the April 2015 referendum. We only received direction from 40% of the registered voters in the district, and really didn't know, but the 60% that didn't vote once. Then there was we didn't know it was on the ballot, even though it was in all the papers and Lakeland was covered by signs. If they were responsible citizens, they would have seen a referendum on the ballot when they went to vote. If these individuals had allowed the full board to work in a productive manner, and the plan to move forward, moving the students out of the Lakeland school was in place, construction could have started, and a number of students could possibly have already been moved by now. Thank you.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is to report the possible environmental problems at Midland Elementary School and to consider a plan of action.
I want to thank everybody for attending tonight and showing enough interest in the community to express such a concern on the dilemma we found ourselves in. I'd just like to start off with a brief history of how we got to this point. As you all know, the main part of the Midland Elementary School was constructed in 1902. To give you a perspective on the date of that building, that's 10 years before the Titanic sunk, and that was 1 year before the Wright brothers flew. It's a very old building. Every year, the Regional Office of Education is required to conduct a health and life safety inspection. Prior to this year, we were covered by the Regional Office Education number 43, which is now been disbanded or dissolved. And half of those school districts that were in that jurisdiction that were in Woodford County went to the Tazewell County ROE. The other half, which would have been the school districts in Marshall and Putnam, went to the LaSalle County ROE. Up until this year, our district and our buildings were rated as making adequate progress. If you look at the checklist to conduct those inspections, there is no portion for lead paint. Schools are not required to test for lead paint or air quality. However, this district has tested for air quality. Most recently, last week, and before in 2014. Any paint that is considered to have been applied prior to 1977 is considered to have lead in it. Assume. This building has lead paint in it. The high school has lead paint in it, and certainly the elementary school has lead paint in it. I'm going to show you where they tested for lead paint and where they did air quality samples. And I know this is very hard to see, it's very difficult to see, but I hope to have these reports posted online for everybody to be able to review them and download them. There's no doubt about it that this is a tragedy, and it's a problem that has the highest priority to be resolved, and our school board is committed to doing so. This has nothing to do with the referendum. Nothing. That building will not be occupied until these violations are resolved, and we can prove that it's been resolved to the Regional Office of Education. I talked to them yesterday, and they are not comfortable certifying that building with students in it until the lead portions of it are abated, and we complete recommendations made by Ideal Environmental Engineering. And I also want to caveat, certainly I am not qualified to interpret the data. All I can do is show it to you. I have not been certified in lead testing, nor have I been certified in mold testing. So I am not an expert. I cannot answer any questions on it, whether or not it's a reliable test. Certainly, when you view the reports, you will find out that the person who conducted the test is fully certified. Okay? This is kind of difficult to see, but I'll do the best I can. What was probably most interesting for me to learn when we found out that there had been mold identified in portions of the elementary building, and I'm going to quote this, is the fact that no state or federal laws are in effect which regulate indoor environmental quality sampling, testing, and remediation. Okay? They took 4 samples. 3 of them were air quality samples. No, I'm sorry, they took samples of air quality, and they also took samples for lead. They took 4 air quality samples in the elementary school in these areas. This is in the lower area. Down here is where the pre-K comes in, right here. They took one in outside room 112, outside room 102, and this would be outside room 116. And then they took one outside the building as a control. Please be patient. All areas were found to have mold in them. The recommendations they made to remedy where it was found was to clean carpeting in this area, and I'll read this to you. Clean the carpet and wood beam in the entry with a microbial detergent or fungicide. They also found some stained ceiling tiles. Remove and replace all stained ceiling tiles. Also perform follow-up sampling after corrective measures are taken to reevaluate conditions. They also recommended to thoroughly clean the areas and maintain a regular cleaning schedule. Ensure air filters are working properly on all HVAC system equipment. Dry and thoroughly clean any carpets, rugs, fabrics, etc. that get wet within 24 to 48 hours to prevent the growth of fungi. Maintain humidity and moisture levels in the building between 35% and 60%. Keep indoor temperatures consistent to help prevent mold from growing and spores from spreading. Discourage or prohibit displays, maintaining or promoting the excessive use of live plants in this indoor environment. Live plants are allergens to some individuals. The soil in live plants harbor microbial growth and can cause sensitivities, allergic reactions, and respiratory ailments in some individuals. If live plants are present, ensure the soil used is commercially available. Potting soil is changed at a minimum 1 time per year with fresh potting soil. Do not bring outside dirt into the building for use in potted plants. Now I'd like to talk about the lead, which the contractor felt was the biggest problem. They took a total, it appears, of 29 samples. They took those samples throughout the building. And as you can see, well, you can't probably see it very well, but it was on the first level and the second level. The contractor started out testing right outside the main office, where I thought there would be quite a bit of lead paint found. And interestingly enough, they started off their inspection and there wasn't a lot of lead paint found. For example, which would be, and I'll just go through these samples. It's actually the second floor. Outside of room 11, which is, I believe, next to the cafeteria and is the storage room. There was no lead-based paint found. A door column outside the boiler room indicated no lead-based paint. Another door column outside the boiler room indicated no lead-based paint. Outside the lamination workroom, which was on the lower level, indicated no lead-based paint. And I'm reading from this report, so I ask you to be patient. Again, lower level, it was on a wall outside the lower level lamination workroom, no lead-based paint. A white wall, lower level, outside lamination workroom, no lead-based paint. There's another old shower room that Marty Scott has adjacent to her office. It's a Title I room. Some time ago, it was a locker room for the older portion of the building. No lead-based paint was found. There's a wall that's adjacent in the lobby area going into the office that has some peeling paint. It's partially deteriorated, and there was lead-based paint found there. On an adjacent wall, which would be the east wall, which is a white wall, which is directly adjacent to the wall I just mentioned, no lead-based paint was found. In the lobby area, the north wall, which is indicated as deteriorated and intact, there was lead-based paint. Room 207, north wall, no lead-based paint. Room 207, the east wall, no lead-based paint. Southwest corner of a hallway, lead-based paint was found. A hallway by the elevator and stairs did contain lead-based paint. And from that point, the technician, contractor, traveled outside and took a exterior test on a window frame outside room 122. That was deteriorated and contained lead-based paint. Exterior windows outside room 122, no lead-based paint. Exterior rooms, a window panel outside room 122, did not contain lead-based paint. A window frame outside, exterior window frame outside room 118 contained lead-based paint. A window sash outside room 112 did not contain lead-based paint. A window eave on an exterior window outside room 302 did contain lead-based paint. Interior windows on room 118 contain lead-based paint. In a window well, did not contain lead-based paint, I'm sorry. A window frame, and this is sample 25, interior windows room 118 did not contain lead-based paint. Window sill, room 118 did not contain lead-based paint. 101, a window sill, did not contain lead-based paint. A window sash, interior windows room 101 did not contain lead-based paint. A window sill outside room 208, which was intact, did contain lead-based paint. A window sash on an interior window, room 208, not containing lead-based paint. Window sill, interior windows, room 213, lead-based paint, not lead-based paint. Window sash outside, or in an interior window, room 213, not lead-based paint. The recommendations from the contractor were as following. Hazard 1, deteriorated lead LPB on plaster, wall north, outside room 212-213. Stabilize paint and cover with a high-quality liquid encapsulant coating. Hazard 2, deteriorated lead-based paint on plaster, wall north, lobby area, stabilized paint and cover with a high-quality liquid encapsulant coating. Deteriorated lead-based paint on plaster, wall south, white, southwest corner of hallway, stabilized paint and cover with a high-quality liquid encapsulant coating. Deteriorated lead-based paint on plaster, wall west, hallway by elevator and stairs, stabilized paint and cover with a high-quality liquid encapsulant coating. Deteriorated lead-based paint on wood, window frame, exterior windows outside room 122. Deteriorated lead-based paint on wood, window frame, white, exterior windows, room 118. Stabilized paint and cover with a high-quality liquid encapsulant coating. Hazard 7, deteriorated lead-based paint On metal, window eaves, white exterior windows, room 302. Stabilized paint and cover with a high-quality liquid encapsulant coating. Hazard 8, leaded dust on floor under the window of room 213. Remove dust by steam cleaning carpet thoroughly with an industrial strength enzyme cleaner or thoroughly HEPA vacuum the area. Hazard 9, deteriorated lead-based paint on exterior windows and eaves. Stabilized paint and cover with a high-quality liquid encapsulant coating. Hazard 10, lead-based paint, chip debris on soil under windows of room 118 and room 122. Thoroughly HEPA-vac the soil area under the windows of room 118 and room 122. In addition, Ideal Environmental Engineering also recommended a full building assessment for lead-based paint and air quality. There was a concern also with glazing found in windows that are suspected of containing asbestos. All right, any questions from the school board? At this point, the Regional Office of Education does not feel comfortable housing students, and I don't feel comfortable doing so either. Thank you. What I'll do, when you ask me a question, I'll repeat it so the audience can hear it. Okay. And I'll answer them if I can. But again, I want to caution everybody, I am not certified to answer specific questions or qualified about lead-based paint or air quality.
The recommendation is to test the entire building. Is that something we have to authorize? Will it be done? When will it be done? And how long will it take for us to know the results?
I do not know the answers to that question. I just received this report late yesterday afternoon.
I know, but I'm repeating a lot of questions I think they have. A lot of questions, but a lot of it's related to the contingency plan.
I've already looked up the question, I have one.
Yes.
I guess why is someone who can speak on the lead-based paint, who is qualified, not here this evening to talk to us?
They were unavailable.
I mean, as I'm looking for some of these photographs that are attached here,
Yes.
there are some things in these photographs that you were to walk by them and you say, why isn't this covered with paint? Because it is flaking. Why isn't it covered? We have a huge reserve, and we should have been taking some action to cover some of this ahead of time. I don't understand, because quite honestly, and I'm not in school, my kids haven't been in elementary school for a few years, but samples 5 and 6 area, there's clearly paint coming off the walls. Sample 8, I know you all cannot see sample 8, but sample 8 has huge areas of paint missing. I'm not certain why we haven't been taking these precautionary measures all along to cover up this paint. I don't get it, I don't understand. I mean, these are things that paint, as they have listed, can cover these areas. And I don't understand why this has not been done prior to this. None of us are in the school every day. I don't understand why this has not been done. Even the outside, sample 18, the outside, you can clearly see paint is missing. Why was that just not painted over? Why? I've only been on the school board for 6 months. I don't understand why we have not been taking precautionary measures to cover paint. If this is an issue now, it's an issue here because there's obviously lead-based paint here, and at the high school, why are we not covering this stuff with paint? To save, to protect our kids.
I feel that when the ROE inspection is done in the beginning of the year, this stuff has been identified and these correction actions should have been noted. I'm not sure that peeling paint was present in interior. Exterior, yes, that heating tank's been there for a long time.
I'm sorry, I don't mean any disrespect. Sample 8 here, I cannot believe that much has happened in just a year. Look at that.
I see, I know that.
Okay, I don't understand. I don't. And I don't think the public understands why this has not been done. We have a maintenance department. We have principals that will dictate. I'm not knocking any principals or any maintenance people. Please let me make that clear.
If it's not, let me speak.
Why is it painted?
Yeah, where do you?
I can answer that question. Every year, maintenance projects are completed in that building, including painting projects. Exterior painting projects and capital expenditures into those windows have been deferred every year because the board, not this one, previous boards, and I will take that back, all boards have stated not to put any capital projects in that building. And the reason why was because we ran 2 referendums and 2 sales tax referendums for the specific purpose of replacing that building or generating revenue to prepare it. The condition of this building is no surprise from anybody in this room. It's deplorable.
I don't believe that it is in any way that anyone neglects. These are things that are quick fixes. This is not the boiler that is bad, that we all know is bad. Okay, this is paint. Okay, this is no different than cleaning carpets if they're wet. Okay, and there's an air thing. That is general maintenance that should be done on any school, regardless of capital expenditures. With the reserves that we have and the amount of money that we have, all of these things should be done at all 3 schools to keep our children safe. Not just the elementary school, because all of a sudden it's decaying, we all know that. But I am very, very unhappy because all of our children could be exposed to this, not only in the elementary school, but in the middle school and in the high school if it's not being done as general maintenance.
I've been on board for 2 years, over 2 years. Okay, I'll accept the responsibility. I should have walked through the building more, I should have looked myself. I didn't. I have not once tried to stress to spend any money to fix the exterior of the building, because I agree. We've all been trying to close that building and nobody wanted to put any capital investments on it. I've seen the exterior, I drove by there, I don't have to go inside to see it. I will accept full responsibility, I'll take my portion. I understand you've only been on 6 months.
Bernie, we painted.
We are all to blame, Stephanie, this has been going on for years.
We painted the locker room this year because of how bad it was here. That was not a capital expenditure, okay? That was paint to cover up what was deplorable down there, okay? So when anyone walks past this, and then whoever it is, a parent even walks past and says, why is this paint on chipping? It's not a capital expense to buy, however, a $100 bottle of paint to cover. I'm sorry, it's not.
Okay, I accept full responsibility.
Maybe we weren't clear, maybe it's our fault, because we did say we don't want to do capital expenditure at the elementary level, but in my mind, paint is not a capital expenditure. So maybe we do accept some responsibility for not being completely clear, and just leaving it up to common sense.
It's also the attitude, that thing of everybody in that building, that they don't think we want to spend money on it, they think we want to get rid of it. You know, again, I take responsibility, I'm sorry.
So the past is past, right? You have an issue to take care of. Rather than pointing at fingers at this point, we can point fingers later. What do we have to do to get fixed?
I want to take that.
Let me share with you what I've done to this point to prepare for this. We've been preparing for this for a year. I had a boiler preparation plan in the event of a boiler failure. I revised that plan when this problem came up. And yeah, it is a capital expenditure to remove that paint, because now you have to have a contractor to do it, because I got a bid from a contractor to do it last week, as directed to me by Ideal Engineering. M&O was a lead-based removal contractor, toured the building, and gave us a bid, which I am waiting on now. I also prepared an evacuation plan in the event of a boiler failure, and was here last night revising that plan, and part of this week revising the plan in preparation of this school being closed. So this is no surprise, right? The problem is now, we have to resolve this problem to get the children of this community back to school and stop fighting. That's what we have to do, and that includes the community. Right? St. Lake Sparrow. This is Midland. I developed an evacuation plan. I worked with our custodial staff. I worked with Len Jason, who is our transportation director, to resolve this problem. What Ideal Engineering, as I mentioned before, would like to do is do a full building assessment to determine how pervasive this problem is. And I don't know when they can do it, and I don't know how long it's going to take, because I got the report Friday night. But you can bet, Monday morning, I'll call them and find out. Keep in mind, the majority of this problem is on the exterior of the building. It's the peeling paint that's been there for 10 years. That boards, long before this one, deferred the repair of it. Don't blame the school board for it. We all share the responsibility of this problem. In 2001, there was a referendum where the city, or the school district, put on the ballot, and 56% of that cost was going to be paid for by the state. And it was defeated. Not long ago, we had a sales tax referendum that was lost by 102 votes, I believe it was. And that would have generated $275,000 a year to repair that building. And it was defeated. We put it back on the ballot, and it was defeated even worse. So we have a problem, and we have to fix it. And it's all our fault, including mine. Okay, I have an evacuation plan. It's not perfect. I've worked with employees, and what I would recommend, and this is up to the school board, ultimately they have to make the decision on this, is to move the elementary school students to this building and the high school. I've talked to our architect to ensure that we are providing a safe and healthy environment for those students. I also need to talk to our food service employees to determine if we can provide enough food to provide a lunch, and I think we can. I have a floor plan where I'm going to put these students, but this afternoon I talked to some of the teachers, and it needs to be revised. And I will work very closely with the teachers to make sure that we can provide instruction to these students. Okay. Yes, ma'am.
I would like to just say that I was part of the inspection on Wednesday. I actually went around the entire day with the inspector and the person from the ROE. And I watched every sample that was taken. I spoke with the person, the professional that was taking the samples, as did the other people that were with us that day. And at each spot that she found lead paint, which I think there were 10 out of 36 or whatever it was, each of the samples, I don't know if you can tell by the pictures, with the exception of right outside of Ms. Hatton's room near the office, that is the room or the wall there that Stephanie was referring to. It appeared that it had several spots or a larger area that was cracked and peeling. With the exception of that area, the other spots
spots within the building that were peeling were about a 3-inch or 5-inch diameter. They were not full wall areas, it was little spots. Also, the windowsills, there were some areas within the windows. When the inspection was complete, we spoke for a lengthy time with the inspector as to regards of what she thought we should do with the situation as to that point what she had uncovered. She was asked very directly how we could remedy the situation. She told us at that point that we needed to have a certified crew come in and paint these spots. When asked what the scope would be, she told us that she felt that it could be done in an evening after school. It wasn't something that was going to be a huge project. The windows, the outside of the windows that are concerned with the peeling paint, she did tell us that she would advise at this point, if we don't do anything, to keep the windows closed. Right now, with it being winter, obviously, it's going to be difficult to paint on the outside of the building. We could, however, remove the paint and be done with that. As to the asbestos on the caulking of the windows that she referred to my knowledge, none of that at that point was deteriorated. Correct me if I'm wrong on that. And so while that also was noted, it was not an issue to my knowledge at that point. I guess basically the end result, in my opinion, having walked through and spoken very in-depth with the specialist who took care of the situation, I asked her very directly in front of Mr. Severson and the ROE, the principal, do you feel it necessary at this moment to remove the children from the building if we are going to remedy the situation? Her response at that time was no. If you know the area specifically where this is, then I would advise you to have them stay away from those specific spots. But bring in a crew on an evening or a weekend when the kids are not in school, take care of the paint. So I guess I just ask at this point, when I read through this report, now that we have the official report in hand, if we are being advised to shampoo the carpet, to vacuum the floors, to dust the building, to paint a few spots here and there, I don't deny in the least bit that at some point soon we need to close that building. We've all been saying it for a lengthy time. But to uproot the kids in the middle of the year, nearly the end of the year, make everything chaos, I don't know that that's the best case scenario at this point. To me, I feel that you spoke with the paint crew last week, you said, or?
Yes, I have.
Okay.
I'm awaiting a bid.
Okay, so you don't know what the cost of that would be at this point?
No, I don't, not at this time.
Okay.
And I would also like to mention, I invited Tiana to go on that inspection. And I'm glad she went as an observer. In the post-meeting, she asked some very good questions and offered advice.
Yes, and I'd like to ask, why are we voting to move on a contingency plan when we do not have the bid for remedying this with paint, which appears to me, and I don't know how many other people in the audience, that might be the best way to go, to not move the children this time of year, put up pods, again, uprooting them, losing instruction, further for days while that's being done. If this can be abated in a fairly quickly time, if they miss one more day of school, we know that could very, very easily be what we have to do. Okay, if this can be painted that quickly, the children's safety is of utmost importance for everyone here. But from what I've seen here, what you have presented, there seem to be on this report 7 areas of concern, and the biggest one is outside. Paint chips is something from my own knowledge that unless they're eating them, okay, eating the paint chips, they're not getting lead poisoning. Okay, so I'm not certain why we would want to go to such an extreme before we have a bid saying how much it's going to cost to abate this quickly to keep our kids in the school. I'm not saying put a ton of money into that school, because one way or the other, in March, these taxpayers have a right to determine what will happen with that building. But right now, my biggest concern is that of the kids, and ensuring from this point forward that the middle school and the high school that contain lead paint and possible air issues are dealt with, so that we don't have this problem.
My belief. I'm reading from the conclusion section of their summary, their third conclusion. In summary, lead hazards are present. Ideal recommends a complete lead-based paint inspection and risk assessment for the entire building. Until we do that and see those results, we should not want our students or staff in that building. We need to do that entire test first before we know what we're sending them back into. We know what these sample spots said. What's the rest of it say? That's why I support the contingency plan. I don't know how long it's going to take to get the rest of that building tested.
One thing I've learned is, of course, now it's winter time, and as long as those windows stay shut, I mean, you can breathe in lead. I mean, it can be in the air. And that was one thing, the dust from all the outside. You know, you wouldn't want to open the windows and breathe that in.
I definitely don't have enough information to make a decision tonight. I was really hoping someone from Ideal Engineering would be here that has the expertise to speak on this matter. All we have here is their recommendations, of which there are 3. You spoke of one, Bernie, which was to do a complete lead-based inspection. The other was they recommended interim control options, which is Rolf read off involved cleaning the floors, painting over some of the window seals, things of that nature. And their third option was recommending that windows not be opened until the lead-based paint on exterior window frames has been stabilized. So we mentioned it's winter time, no reason to open the windows right now. So until we get a bid on what their recommendations would cost, I'm not in a position to make a decision.
I don't think we're deciding on this. I thought we were deciding whether to implement the contingency plan. But there's nothing here to offer on this tonight. We're just relaying this as information, correct? The question to me, the way I understand it, do we want to send the kids back in the building? What's our, I think the ROE will allow.
The ROE has been very hesitant to allow us to send them back in without a full building assessment. That's what I was told on Friday by the regional superintendent.
I believe, I don't have the exact spot in this report, but I made a note when I was reading through them that Ideal thought they could do that full inspection on Monday.
I thought I read that in one of the reports and have these results back quickly,
Yeah.
but I don't see it here.
How much would it cost again to move them with the pods and everything else?
At this point, I don't know. I'm still working
And
on
how
it.
soon, if you don't know the cost, that's fine, I understand. How soon could the pods be set up?
You're referring to mobiles?
Yes.
I think I can get them here within 3 weeks. I've talked to our architect that there's a process of permitting them. The ROE has to inspect them. They have to certify them for occupancy, they have to be plumbed, and they have to have electricity wired to them.
It just appears to me that on Monday, when you make these phone calls, okay, you find out how soon they can get in there, get a painter in there that will appease part of it until a full inspection is done. That's one more day. We just closed school for 2 days, waiting test results while nothing was being done. Okay? I want to make sure that whatever we do is in the best interest of the kids, best interest of the taxpayers' dollars, and getting them back into instruction somewhere. Okay, that's what's important. But at the same time, if this quality, if this review shows that it's not as big of a deal because you need to paint over these things, to me that is less money being spent than going with the other. Because
You can't paint over it. the exterior is where a lot of the lead paint is.
But we're not opening windows right now, we can paint those overall windows, because here's my thing. This
Well,
is my-
here's the problem with that. You have peeling lead paint falling off that building on the ground in full view with anybody walking by, including children. That's the problem. And what they would have to physically do is abate that paint that's up in the eaves on the exterior windows, scrape them off, and then repaint over. That's the problem. The interior problem is easy. They can fix that.
Now, let me also add to that. I mean, she was referring to the outside windows, the outside of the windows. She also did make note that we could, because it's winter time, we could have someone come in and scrape off the paint and do some sort of a chemical removal if need be.
Right, and that's
And
the
then just leave them
contract.
bare wood. So, and as far as the interior paint, again, I saw it, and I encourage anybody else to look closer at the wall pictures. It's not large areas, we're not talking about the need at this point that we're aware of, to go in and completely repaint the entire building.
You're
We're
correct.
talking spots, therefore, I would think that if you spoke to maybe a few different contractors, knowing that we have children out of school, and that this is a huge, burden and a big issue for the district, that we could, expedite this process of getting them.
Well, on this plan, you're not using pots, are you?
Not initially, because we can't get it here in time.
Right.
We would have to have, in order to not disrupt programs, we would have to have about 11 or 12 classrooms, additional classrooms.
And they would be in those pods.
They